The last load of the Silver Fox. They called him the Silver Fox, not because of his hair, which had long ago surrendered to the color of highway asphalt, but because of his ability to find his way through any storm, any border, and any darkness. Elias had spent 42 years in the cab. He had seen the Berlin Wall fall from his side mirror. He had watched the sun rise over the Port of Rotterdam 5,000 times. But tonight was different. Tonight was his final run. Most drivers celebrate their retirement with a drink and a handshake. Elias was given a different kind of send-off. A special request from a client he had served for 3 decades. No paperwork. No digital logs. Just a sealed, silver-plated trailer and a set of coordinates on a rugged, jagged coast of Norway. The instructions were simple yet cold. Don't look in the back, and don't stop until the road runs out of land. The North Sea was angry that night. The wind whipped against the trailer. Tri pried off the road and cast it into the churning surf below. But as Elias climbed higher into the fjords, he felt something else, a vibration. It wasn't the rhythmic, comforting thrum of the 600 horsepower engine. It was something coming from behind him, something inside the steel. At first, he thought it was the wind whistling through the vents. Then, he thought it was a loose strap rattling against the pallet. But as the road narrowed and the trees closed in, the sound became clearer. It was a melody, a soft, humming tune that seemed to vibrate through the very chassis of the truck. He gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles white against the leather. In 40 years, Elias had carried everything. Heavy machinery for the northern mines, fine wine for the elite of Paris, explosives for the deep tunnels of the Alps. But he had never carried a sound. He had never carried a secret that hummed. The coordinates led him to a place that shouldn't have existed. A pier so old it would look like petrified bone, reaching out into the black water like a skeletal hand. There was no ferry terminal, no customs gate, no signs of life, just a single, flickering lantern hanging from a rusted post. Swaying in the gale, Elias stepped out of the cab. The silence of the fjord was deafening after hours of engine noise. The air tasted of salt and ancient ice. He walked to the back of the trailer. His instructions were to break the seal at exactly 4 a.m. He looked at his watch. The second hand ticked with the weight of a sledgehammer. 3:59, and then the click. 4. He pulled the lever. The heavy steel doors swung open with a groan that echoed off the mountain faces for miles. He shined his flashlight into the darkness of the trailer, expecting to see crates or perhaps the forbidden cargo the legends whispered about. The trailer was empty of commercial goods, but it was full of life. Stacked from floor to ceiling were thousands of small wooden boxes. Elias reached out and opened one. Inside was a single cassette tape, labeled with a date from 1982. He opened another. A handwritten diary, its pages yellowed and brittle. He opened a third. A child's toy truck, rusted and worn, with a name scratched into the bottom. He realized then what he was hauling. This wasn't a delivery. It was a burial. These were the lost items of the road. The things drivers had dropped at rest stops and forgotten. The letters that never reached home. The photographs tucked into sun visors of trucks that had long ago been scrapped. He was hauling the memories of every man and woman who had ever lived their life between the white lines of the highway. The client wasn't a company. It was the road itself. And Elias, the most loyal of its servants, had been chosen to return these echoes to the deep. As the sun began to bleed over the horizon, turning the fjords into a sea of liquid violet, a barge arrived. No crew was visible. Elias watched in a trance as the boxes were moved, one, by a crane that operated with the silence of a ghost. When the last box was gone, Elias felt a physical weight lift from his own shoulders. 40 years of road noise, 40 years of deadlines, 40 years of coffee and cold nights. It all went onto that barge. He didn't drive the truck back. He left the keys in the ignition and the engine idling, a warm, mechanical heart waiting for the next soul who felt the call of the highway. Elias turned his back on the silver grill and the chrome. He didn't look back. He simply began to walk, not toward a destination, but simply home. The Silver Fox had finished his run, and the road began to write a new story.